Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Iolite Leaf Ocean, and today we're going to be discussing how trans rights are human rights. Let's get right into it. So, we all enter this world as infants with a clean slate. We don't know what anything is, not even how to lift our heads or how to utter our first sounds other than cries for our mothers. And yet, from the get go, we are taught that we're only defined by the context of our genitalia. Our our ability or lack of to reproduce defines us from inception. But why? In a world lacking sense, humanity has thrived off of working in boxes, but for far too long we have been limited by our concepts of identity to strict confines. It's time for this to end. So, what does cisgender mean? Cisgender is a term that's been used more recently in modern language due to the recent politicalization of the concept of gender and identity. And misinformation over it being a slur has thrown its true purpose under the bus. Cisgender is a scientific term to simply describe the common experience of identifying as the sex you were assigned at birth. It's not a slur nor an insult. And here is a diagram to explain my point. So on the left, we have a cis man. He was born male and identifies as such. He has a penis and goes by he, him. On the right, we have a cis woman. She was born a woman. She identifies as such and has a vagina and goes by she. So what does transgender mean? So transgender means to identify with the gender opposite or different to the sex you were assigned at birth. It's an umbrella term that can be used to refer to uh, MTF, FTM, non binary, agender, two spirit, all of these different identities. So here's a really cool diagram that I found that helps explain my point. We got gender identity, which is how you feel about your gender on the inside, gender expression, which is how you dress to show it on the outside, and then your biological sex, which is the gender you were born with. So there's male, there's female, and then there's intersex, and we're about to get into that. So what is intersex? So intersex is a term for individuals born with some type of genetic or physical defect that impacts the genitalia or reproductive system of the individual. There are dozens of different ways for intersex to present. There are studies that, depending on how you define intersex, claim that about 1.7 of America's population, or roughly 6 million people, are known to be intersex. Unfortunately, due to the medical stigma around intersex people, most don't find out until their adulthood, usually when trying to start a family. And here is a diagram of all of the different ways that intersex can present. On the very far left, we have a typical biological female, and on the very far right, we have the typical biological male. So moving on, that's cool and all. Why is that important for you to know? Besides just the benefit of knowing how to refer to people in these contexts, understanding these terms might be imperative to your own future in life. For example, if you wish to settle down one day and start a family, it might be good information to know if your partner is infertile due to being intersex or transgender. So, if you have a child who's intersex or trans, it might be good to have this knowledge in the back of your pocket to benefit your decision in raising your unique child. So, how does that affect you, a cisgender person? So, most people are not born as Miss America, and not every man is born as Adam Sandler. So, we're going to do a fun little experiment for this one. On the top, we have four beautiful women, and on the bottom, we have four handsome men. And I want you, rhetorically, keep this in the back of your mind, which two are cis and which two are trans on each of these rows. So moving on, how does this impact your rights? How are your rights being threatened? Well, when trans rights are threatened, everyone's rights are threatened. Nobody wants to be submitted to genital inspections just to use the bathroom. The thing is that trans people just want to pee, and this whole politicalization about trans people is simply just about control. A lot of the people who are leading these conversations, the Republicans in the House and Senate who are leading these conversations, don't even know that trans men exist, and they think that trans men and trans women are the same thing. So they are completely uneducated about this subject. And maybe, just maybe, if I educate y'all, it might eventually get forwarded to them. Well, we can pray, but I don't have high expectations. So here's some things that happened recently in the real world. For example, this 6'2" woman was fired from her job after she was accused of being trans by a man in the bathroom who followed her into the bathroom. Here's some other awful things that are happening in the news. For example, Trump and RFK are trying to bring back conversion therapy for trans kids. But the thing is, what do you do? How do you even ask about this? And that's a hard question because at the end of the day, we're just people trying to be ourselves, our true authentic selves, and that's literally all this is about is whether or not people are allowed to be their true authentic selves. So you just got to think to yourself, how would I want to be asked this question? Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself the question, and if you feel gross asking it, then maybe reconsider asking it to a trans person cuz nobody wants anyone to come up to them and ask them what their genitals look like. And I have a story about just that. See, my partner and I are gay, and my partner's parents are conservative Trump Republicans. So when I first met my partner's parents, the very first time, I had never met them before in my life. I'm standing in front of their door with my partner right next to me, and his dad opens the door, and before even shaking my hand or introducing himself, I say, "Hi, my name's Leaf. Nice to meet you." And he says, "What do your genitals look like?" Who starts a conversation like that, let alone with your son's partner, which you're meeting for the first time? But simply for the fact that I was out and trans, he felt like that was a right and just question to ask to a stranger he's meeting for the first time. And so just remember, don't be an asshole. I think that's pretty simple. Just just don't be a dick and you'll be okay. So, in conclusion, as long as we protect our trans brothers and sisters and non binary twisters, the world will slowly but surely become a better place. I personally don't care what my neighbor in the stall next to me is wearing when I'm simply in there to pee and then leave. So, extend that to everyone around you, because allowing the freedom of expression to all, we create a world that is warmer and safer for our future generations to come. Thank you. And I hope you keep that in mind so that we all treat trans people with respect.